Let me tell you my first exposure to pornography. Yes, we're gonna get real. Like, what an interest, woo! Okay, let's jump right in. But I wanna be honest with you. I wanna share a little bit of my story to break the ice, to have a good conversation about this talk that I have titled, Your Game Plan, My Game Plan to Say No to Porn. Some of you are like, Jeremy, that's impossible. I've been trying. Well, let me give you a little bit of my experience, but let me start with my story of how I was first exposed to it, and we can work from there. I was in 5th grade, 10 years old. At 10 years old in 1997, the only way I could have ever accessed porn was by one of my classmates' father having a secret stash in the closet, probably through the form of a magazine, like a Playboy magazine. And the boy would get access to it and would bring it to school, and over recess or lunchtime or what have you, would say, hey, let's look at this. You gotta see this stuff. Well, in my particular case, as I was walking home from school that day, a friend of mine, or what I thought was a friend, says, Jeremy, I can't wait to show you something that I found in my parents' bedroom. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, it's incredible. Completely naive, 5th grade boy in a pastor's home, having absolutely no idea, just trusting his friend, excited for what his friend was excited about, walks into the house, sees these magazines, and my eyes for the very first time were introduced to something they were not meant to see. I remember sitting there, without getting too graphic with you, thinking, going, oh, that's what those are. Oh, so that's what she looks like. Now, let me stop there before I go too far, but to say this, 10-year-old Jeremy in 5th grade unintentionally found himself in a space that introduced him to his most difficult addiction, temptation he's ever experienced. Now, out of third person, we're talking about me here. It all started innocently in 5th grade because of a dad's stash that wasn't hidden very well, found by his son, introduced to me one day after school. 10, 11 years old. The story continues. Why? Because as you are aware, if you struggle with pornography, it seems nearly impossible to say no to, at least in certain moments, certain days, depending on how the day is going. So let me read for you a verse that I believe is going to be an inspirational voice into your life. So as I read this, do me a favor, just close your eyes, listen to this promise of God in 2 Chronicles. Yes, 2 Chronicles, if you want to open up to it, that'd be awesome. You can pause the screen and go to it. It's all the way back in the Old Testament. It's 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 17. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 17. This is what it says. But you will not even need to fight. Well, that sounds great. When it comes to the idea of pornography, I'm like, woo, I don't have to fight. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But before we get lost in this, listen to the rest of this. But you will not need to fight. Take your positions, then stand still and watch the Lord's victory. He is with you. O people of Judah and Jerusalem, do not be discouraged or afraid. Go out against them tomorrow, for the Lord is with you. Now, this is an interesting verse, but there's a few things I want to talk about it really quickly before I dive into the actual topic itself and the issues of pornography. One, you don't need to fight, but yet the next 3 verses talk about how we fight. So let me explain to you what the author is saying here. You don't need to fight, we need to fight. This is huge. The pronouns change from you to we. Why? Because it's not a you battle, it's not a me battle, it's a we battle, and we're gonna do it together. And the beauty of that is that Jesus Christ, through his Holy Spirit, is in the battle with us. Take your positions, then stand and watch the Lord's victory, because he is with you. Do not be afraid. Go out together tomorrow, for the Lord is with you! Exclamation point. If that verse does not bring at least a small sliver of encouragement to you, you're deaf. Listen again. God is with you. And it's not your battle alone, but it's ours together. Now, when we think about the idea of pornography, a battle together sounds incredibly awkward. Actually, it seems very vulnerable, and in order for it to be something that we do together, there's going to be a few things that you're going to have to do to make that possible. You're going to have to talk to someone. You're going to have to open up to someone. You're going to have to admit it. Well, let me give you another story where the 2 Chronicles verse is coming from. It's King David. King David in the Old Testament, the guy that's actually said, the man after my own heart. God confirms to the people of Israel that that man, King David, is after my own heart. And yet, this is the same man who, in the spring, when all of kings were supposed to go out and fight with their armies, decides to send off one of his greatest warriors and his men to go off and fight, but he chooses to stay back. And after staying back, he goes up one night to the top of the palace, and he overlooks and he sees a beautiful woman bathing naked. Now, there's no sin here, at least not that we're aware of. There may be a potential of it yet. But at this point, by just unintentionally observing something is not in itself sin, because sin is something that separates you from the heart of God. But what happens next is the major piece that changes the trajectory of his life and negatively impacts many others. King David calls up his servants and says, I want to talk to that woman. Brings the woman up, who happens to be married to one of his greatest soldiers. They have sex that night, and she gets pregnant. In some ways, I wish the story would end there, but it doesn't. As many of you who will resonate with. And they attempt to keep it private. And they attempt to act like we don't struggle with pornography. In an attempt to make it unknown, we make a long list of unfortunate, bad decisions. Whether it be lying, whether it be hurting other people, whether you make the list, whether it be inviting other people like that 5th grade kid did to me in 1997. Then, King David, he actually sends out this lady's husband out to the front lines and he's killed. It's all kind of going pretty well for King David. There's a lot of guilt going on inside, but he's hiding it. Nobody seems to know until this prophet named Nathan shows up and challenges the king and says, dude, you've done something wrong. And then King David weeps and laments and admits it, and it becomes a crazy piece in the story. But as you've heard in the story already, King David's sin didn't just impact him. This is huge. One of the reasons why I think we keep pornography silent is because we keep it to ourselves and we hide it. We think it's just harming us, but I guarantee you it's going to harm other people. It might harm your parents. It's most definitely going to harm your relationship with your spouse in the future. I can almost guarantee it. It's going to harm someone else. In King David's story, his decisions harmed an innocent lady, harmed an innocent man who died, and then there's a boy that's born, and then the story continues, and King David's lineage is harmed. It's not the most beautiful story in the world. And it all started with a view. He saw something he was not supposed to see. He did something he wasn't supposed to do, and then he negatively impacted many other people. And maybe, depending on who you are, you might be watching this for a few minutes and going, Darren, this doesn't seem to apply to me. Well, let me tell you the statistics. For millennials, in my generation, those who are 25 to say roughly 40, on a recent poll by Barna says this, males in our generation, 79% of them said they checked pornography last month. Ladies, 28%. 3 years ago, the same study was made. Only 14% for ladies, only 61% for men. In both, great increase. In the ladies, interestingly enough, doubles. For guys, well, it can't even double because so many of us struggle with it. I didn't say those who struggle with it. I said those who literally just looked at it recently. There are more people who did. And here's the crazy part. In 2018, the porn industry made, porn that we know of, made $79 billion worldwide, $21 billion coming from America alone. Christians, we are a big part of the problem. Let's talk about this. And let me give you a game plan that we find in the story of King David on the second half of his story that I think is going to help you and I actually start to say no. But I'm going to promise you right now, it's not going to be comfortable, nor is it going to be easy. So jump in, stick with me. Let's work on this together. If you have questions, please be willing to reach out to me. I'm going to love you. It's going to be no judgment. I'm going to support you. There'll be no judgment. I promise there will be no judgment. We're just going to be here to love on you because I know, because I struggled with it for years. And in case you're curious, my breakthrough began when my wife caught me 2 years into our marriage. I hate to say that, but I want you to know that I don't want you to get there. It's the greatest embarrassment of my life. But I think that this strategy, this game plan will get you on the path of saying no for the very first time. So the first question I ask is, how in the world was King David able to mess up so badly? Well, I want to go back to the three things I already told you. He unintentionally saw something he wasn't supposed to see. He then did something he wasn't supposed to do, and he negatively impacted other people. But there's more to the story, and I think this is huge for us because every one of us has major trigger points that make us want to go back to pornography. It might be TikTok. Let's be real. It's bikini season, guys. It's not the girl's fault. It's yours and I's. It might be Instagram. It might be a TV show. It might be the mall walking by Victoria's Secret. I don't know. But what is your triggers? Is it your trigger the moment you're in your room by yourself and you have this piece of, well, it's not evil in itself, but it brings a lot of evil to a lot of people's lives. So here's the thing I want you to think about. Where are you putting yourself in the wrong position? King David wasn't even supposed to be there. If he was doing the right thing a king was supposed to do, he would have been out in battle, and it never would have happened. The first issue is that he wasn't in the right place. Not only was he in the wrong place at the wrong time, he actually put himself purposely in the wrong place. And for those of us who struggle with pornography and have for a long time, or maybe those of you who just are for the very first time, the greatest risk in your life is actually you putting yourself in the wrong position, in the wrong place, where temptation is at its greatest. You've got to make a list right now. Pause the screen, make a list. Talk about it in small groups if you're talking about this in small groups. Make a list of the places and the things that you're triggered. Be honest. I know this is awkward, but we want you to know that small group time is a safe place for you. We love you. We're going to help you. Make your list. It's really, really important that you confess this, though. Right now, I'm asking you to do that. I'm asking for you to realize your triggers because you are struggling with it and it's going to get you through. But acknowledging your triggers, while it might be step A, is really not the truly first step. And here's why. You don't need to look at your triggers if you don't know you have a problem. Now, you know if you do. But here's what your first step is. This is huge. Your first step is to confess it, to own it, and to give it to God. Who are you confessing to? God. Start there, go up, pray. See, God, get in a moment in your room and start weeping, get crying, get real, make it authentic. Own it and confess it. And as a result of that, the second one is just huge. Confess it again. But to whom this time? The right person in your life. Your mentor, your small group leader. Maybe it's me, maybe it's Kim, maybe it's your parents. For me, it actually was literally my parents. I continued to struggle with it, and then I had to confess my wife when she caught me. Oh, so sorry for that, Sarah. Confess it to somebody. Own it. Confess it to somebody. Confess it to the right person. Number 3, remove those triggers. What are your triggers? Don't be stupid. What are your triggers? This is such an important step. So many of us have confessed it. If you're honest, you're going to go, Jeremy, I've done all of this. I've confessed it to God. I've confessed it to somebody. I got a mentor. I got an accountability partner. And I still struggle all the time. I just don't let them know. Figure out your triggers. I know my triggers. You need to know yours. Because the moment you know your triggers, you know what to work against. This, put a block on it. Actually make it where you cannot even download an app unless one of your friends gives you their passcode to do it. Make it where you cannot go to explicit sites. Make it where you can put blocks on certain types of buzzwords and hashtags on TikTok and Instagram. You can do all those things. But it takes you figuring out those triggers, talking to the right person, and creating accountability in your life. Number 4. This is huge, this is huge, this is huge, this is huge. Don't miss it. It's an expensive one. It's a real one though. You need it. Get professional help. If you need professional help because it's gone to the point of extreme addiction, I've heard this so many times in a counseling settings as I counsel young men who have struggled with this. Myself was included in this story. They'll say something like, Jeremy, I can't even get out of bed unless I do. I can't go to sleep unless I do. I actually can't do anything unless I do. Guys, that's an extreme addiction. Own it. It's okay. It's okay. We love you. It's fine. Let's work on this. Let's get on the journey of healing. Let's get on the journey of saying no. Let's get professional help if you do. Get somebody around you who's going to speak boldly into your life. It's important. Number 5. This is so important. Let God heal your wound that pornography is covering. Let me close with this, and I'll make a follow-up video to this. King David didn't stay back because of a beautiful woman on a rooftop. King David stayed back because he had a wound. Now, it could have literally been a physical wound that made it impossible for him to go out to battle. We actually don't know, but this is something we do know. There was a literal cause that prevented him from going, whether it was emotional, spiritual, or physical, we don't know. But there was a wound that caused the problem in the first place. There is a wound that pornography is covering up for you. Why you need that buzz all the time. Why masturbation is something you constantly go back to. Why you want that guy or girl. What is the wound? Make a list of a wound that might be being covered as a result of it. So, here's the game plan. Confess it to God. Confess it to somebody safe. Make a list of your triggers so you know what to work through. Get professional help if you definitely need it. Be honest with yourself. Number 5, so important. Let God heal the wound that pornography is covering up. I want to say these 5 quick things really fast at the end here, as it will lead into another video, a follow-up video of this that I think will help you to continue to say no or learn how to say no, maybe for the very first time, to pornography. And that's this. 1, you are only as strong as you are honest. You are only as strong as you are honest. You are only as able to say no as you are to say, to be honest that you struggle with it. That's huge. Number 2, your actions, my actions, are negatively impacting other people. Don't think it's an isolated situation. Your pornography is never hidden. It's never isolated. It's never just your problem. I know personally. Number 3, our feelings and decisions that cause our problems are also not isolated. Why did you find yourself in that room? Why did you find yourself going back to TikTok? Why did you find yourself going back to that website? Why did you, ... You make the list. They're not isolated. Be honest. Remember, you're only as strong as your honesty. Number 4, your feelings afterwards, after watching pornography, after sexual experience with somebody, after masturbation, your feelings are very telling. For most people that I've ever talked with, always tell me their feelings afterwards is gross, uncomfortable, guilty, shameful, disgusting, dirty. You make the list. If that's you, you already know that you have a problem. It's not because you're ashamed. It's because you're not being the person you want to be or you're called to be. Start with step 1 and keep going. Let's do this together. You don't have to fight by yourself. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 17. But stand in faith and watch God give you the victory. Say no.